I know he's born and raised in Cleveland Avenue. That's his home. That's all he basically knows. Jeffrey Williams is an entertainer. And a lot of people from Cleveland want to be entertainers. So I know he was trying to work on that, try to get to know the proper people so that he could do that. So he wanted to be a rapper. Of course, I think most people, when they post on Instagram or they know they want to be in entertainment, they post certain things because they know that maybe later this will be a fly, album cover.
Something like that, right?
Right. Or it'll be great for, like a magazine, or it'll be great. Like I could look back at this like 5 years from now and be like, yeah, look how far I've come. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What was it like working with the youngest defendant in the case?
He's been incarcerated since he was 15 years old. The system is almost like all he knows. And the first time he went in the system, they failed him. I mean, if anybody saw the cross of Mariah the Liar or Hogan, I guess he's a detective. I don't know how. They really botched his case. They really did. They did not investigate anything.
Is this the murder trial that he had before?
Mm-hmm. It's really unfortunate. So coming into this trial, he already has that in the background. Like, they screwed me over once. What's going to happen now?
Yeah. Especially being that young.
Right. And of course, when you have appointed counsel, he didn't pick me. So we have to build a trust to be like, okay, I'm going to take care of you. I believe your story. Like, let's try to see what we can do. He's turning 20 this year, actually.
Wow. And so the entire time that he's been incarcerated, has he done some time in like juvenile detention? And then he's gone to like, because I'm not really familiar with the Georgia prison system, but has he like changed facilities over his time?
Right. And that's also the crazy part. So when he was 15, he was charged with murder. That happened in 2019. We know what happened in 2020. So that pushed his trial back. So he was still 15 to 16. And then at about 17 years old, he had his trial. And by the time that trial was over, he was almost 18. So I believe he stayed in Fulton County for a couple months. And then he went to Department of Correction, which is prison, because he was convicted. And then May of 2022, which would have been 6-7 months later, they brought him back to Fulton because they were like, let's put this RICO charge on you.
Yeah, was that a surprise for you guys in addition to what he's already been going through? Because we did a deep dive into everybody's plea deal over these past few weeks, and I noticed he just had the one RICO charge.
The irritation that I had for this whole case, a lot of people who were charged in this indictment that only had one charge, a lot of those people had pleas. And they're the ones who pled out earlier. Wendy Lee, he only had the one RICO charge and that's it.
Right. And so for you guys, for your team in particular, you guys just had the one. And, it's interesting because I remember at the beginning, we watched the opening statements. We watched your opening statement as well. We didn't dig into it at the beginning, but to only see one charge for him was very surprising.
Because they gave us so much evidence. So I'm like, okay, there has to be more than what they just convicted him of. There has to be.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
How is he doing? How has he been coping with the legal process, especially given his young age?
I mean, he doesn't trust it. I mean, the first time he had a appointed counsel the first time, but what people don't know is Mariah the Liar put on a grand performance in that trial. So every time you would ask her something or get her caught in a lie, she would start crying on the stand.
Now, saying Mariah the Liar, this is one of the witnesses, or is this somebody that's accusing him of the crime?
Well, she's one of the witnesses that was in the murder case, and she was also in this one.
Okay. And
right.
They didn't show her face. This is
right.
She was 3 weeks ago. I remember.
Right.
This.
Yeah, I call her Mariah the Liar because I don't know what else to call her.
Yeah, no, that you were turned up that day. You were objecting. You were doing your thing. We were cheering you on at home.
Because she it was just really upsetting because she's lying. And I think unlike the first jury in his murder trial, in this YSL trial, you get to see what it looks like. If the state has somebody locked in the basement, you don't think they're going to have 20, 30 witnesses about that?
Yes, this was the girl that had the story about the bushes, and then a magical phone showed up in the basement.
She called her mother, not the police, but she called her mother, her grandmother. The police were already at her mother's house, even though she never talked to them. She was hostage for about 12 hours. Her mom wasn't even looking for her. Like, it didn't make sense. And I was able to read, her trial transcript in the first trial. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. And she never brought up that Bali attacked her in the first trial. First time people ever heard that she was locked in a basement. Like, she throws in random facts when she knows she's getting caught in a lie.
Yeah, no, this chat went crazy that day. They were like, nothing she's saying makes any sense. Like, the story's not linear.
Because I know if I saw a shooting and I'm not used to seeing shootings, I'm going to remember who had a big gun who was shooting. I'm going to remember like what I was doing right before, right after. I'm not going to be like, who had the big gun? I told you I did not remember because you just made it up.
That could be it too. That could be it as well.
So like she just frustrates me because I know that she's part of the reason that he was convicted. And I know the first time, like I said, she was crying. She said her house was shot up the first time, but because the jury in this trial was able to see when a house gets shot up, even if it's one bullet, how many witnesses do they have on the stand for that?
Yeah. Yeah, we saw it right away. Like sometimes it's overkill with the amount of detectives and people that come in for one thing.
Nothing about her house being shot up. They didn't call her sister. They didn't call her mom. They didn't call siblings. They didn't call a neighbor. They didn't call anybody. So was her house shot up?
That's insane. It's so sad to hear that this has kind of been his story.
It's not fair. So I understood the hostility. I get it. And it's not because he had a bad attorney. It's because of that witness. And then you have Detective Hogan, who didn't do a deep dive. He took one story and made the evidence fit. So I get irritated too, because when I was going through his discovery and I was reading the transcripts and I'm just like, I'm watching the state put on their case about other things. I'm like, oh, they're probably going to have 40 witnesses for ours.
How many did you have in total?
I think about 3. No, it should have been like 5 total. But when I was going through all of his discovery, it should have been about 40. If you want to get into like, this person collected this person picture of this person drew this. And they got rid of that, which makes all the sense in the world, whatever. But to bolster their witness who said she saw this shooting, I thought that they would have somebody there to be like, oh, we collected bullets at her house. Like, something. Maybe a better picture of the bushes that she was hiding in when this shooting happened. Maybe let's go find the weed man that she doesn't know, but she was walking to meet.
Yeah, and wasn't there like a girl that was living with her?
Okay, so the girl she's talking about is Brazy.
Yes,
and because this is public knowledge, so I can go ahead and say it. So her name is Brazy. She's actually locked up in prison for, guess what? Setting somebody up and pistol whipping them.
Oh my God.
Right. So maybe the girls kill that little boy, maybe?
Well, we were talking about that yesterday, the day before. I think one of Shannon's ex-girlfriends was on the stand recently and was involved in a shootout. And I'm like, I had no idea that some of these young women are involved in like gang violence as well.
Gang expert talked about that in the way beginning. And instead of bringing my client to show him that the system is going to fail him again, maybe charge Mariah the lawyer. I feel bad for the victim too, because he never got justice, because we still don't know who really shot him, because my client did not do that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. The state should really be concerned for bringing justice to the victim, but getting the right assailant or the right person that actually committed the crimes instead of just pinning it on somebody. Where are you guys with his case? That's up on appeal? And, if it is on appeal, like what are some of the biggest things that you guys are looking at as far as his appeal?
So I'm not working on his appeal. His public defender is actually the one who found the message that one of the victims was the one shooting back.
Wow.
So they put that in his appeal because if Hogan's saying there's 2 shooters and this liar is saying there's 2 shooters, but now we're seeing messages that one of the victims said, I shot back. Now we know why there's 2 different shell casings, because there was one shooter that shot at them and then they shot back, or one person shot back from the car. That makes sense. That evidence makes sense. But Hogan didn't want to do any work. So
Wow. Wow. And then coming back to this case, because you guys recently arranged a plea agreement. What was that process like? Especially because this trial is the longest in Georgia history. We've been watching it for 161 days.
This is crazy.
When it came time for the plea arrangement, what was that process like?
So fortunately, I wasn't there. In July of 2023, I planned a vacation for my birthday in October 2024. The state said it only takes 6 months. So if we get started in August, latest we get started in January, we will be done by like July of 2024. So this vacation will not affect anything.
Gotcha. Little did you know.
Right. I mean, who would have ever thought that this trial is still be going on? It's been approximately, a year next week? So yeah, unfortunately I wasn't there. I miss my client.
So what do you think is next for him moving forward after accepting the plea deal?
I believe, because I know the plea was 10 years, time commute. It was commuted, so time served. So that's not going to be he doesn't have to worry about that going forward. He'll just go back to DOC custody because he got life plus 25 for the murder, which was also what made me upset, because life plus 25 means he has to serve 55 years before he's even allowed to even think about parole. So what was the point of putting him on this case? I mean, thank you. So now we can see that, Fulton County will just come up with anything and put somebody in prison for life. But I didn't understand. I feel like it was overkill.
We have all been trying to understand why defendants haven't been charged with their crimes individually instead of this large RICO ordeal. But let's talk a little bit about that too for a second. Like, how does his case shed a broader light on some of the issues in the justice system in Georgia? And, I think your take on this is unique because you have the youngest client.
I'm happy that it was publicized, because people think, oh, if somebody takes a plea, that means they're guilty. We just saw so many people take pleas, and not because they're guilty, because they're tired. What people don't know is they're waking up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Court won't start till 9 o'clock, but they have to sit in the back and holding until court starts. So they're sitting on this hard pavement waiting, and they can't just sit in the courtroom waiting. And then they have to fit them with a knee brace. 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago, there was a shooting in the courthouse, and the guy shot.
Wait, what?
It shut down the whole city. He shot at the judge, I think the court reporter, a deputy, ran out the courthouse with a gun, carjacked somebody. So because of that, they have to have this knee brace on. They're walking with this leg brace that's really uncomfortable. You can't really see it. They have to sit in the chairs for super long. Whitaker had that courtroom extremely cold, so it's uncomfortable.
We saw the coat.
Right.
We're all feeling bad. We were like, Angela got a full coat on. She's like, F y'all.
Yeah, that's cold. I used to have prunes on my fingers. It was so cold in there. So I used to wear gloves and everything.
Because we saw some of the clients on the defense side put on turtlenecks and layers and layers and layers. Why did she want it so cold in there?
I mean, Satan is never comfortable.
We were kind of speculating, age things and things like that, and just keeping it cool. But yeah, I mean, everybody was suffering because of that.
I mean, Glanville kept it cold too, but it wasn't that cold. When she got there, the jurors had space heaters, blankets. Whitaker, she kind of paused the proceedings, and she paused it, but there was no real reason for it. So if you don't know when she's going to start court again, what if she pauses for a whole month? No, let me just get this plea and I can leave.
Yeah. I can't get over that. Space heaters and blankets.
Yes, it's really, really, really cold.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, at least now we know, all the viewers at home, now we know what that's been all about. Because we're like, why is everybody wearing jackets and blankets? Well, thank you for shedding some light on that, because, these are the things that we don't see. But speaking of plea deals in this case, my team and I just did a deep dive into this. Sometimes they're effective, sometimes they're not effective. Overall, what is your opinion of the way pleas have been handled in this case?
Overall, it felt like it was just blackmail.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And then people are like, I would never take a plea unless I actually did it. No, you'll take a plea because, one, who knew that this case would be going on for 2 years?
It appears as if a majority of the people that the state had on the stand, that we're not experts and we're not professionals or in law enforcement. If you looked at everyone else, it seemed like a lot of people did not want to be there.
Especially because things are like from 2015. Like, I don't remember. Well, that makes sense. I don't remember what I did last year. Like, that makes all the sense in the world. And then they're getting people like, do you remember saying, oh my gosh, with ADA load, like, do you remember saying this? Do you remember saying this? Do you remember saying this? Like, nobody's going to remember word for word what they said. Woody used to just lie, but that's the thing people don't realize because everybody has so much faith in the system. Most people think, maybe even Mariah the liar, I don't know. They think that if they lie, the detectives are going to actually do research and they're actually going to investigate and try to see like, okay, let's see if this makes sense. And when it doesn't make sense, that person's long gone. They don't have anything else to go on. So they're going to make it fit.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. We've seen examples of plea deals that have gone wrong and plea deals that kind of work out. Do you think anybody in this case has had a plea deal that actually worked in their favor?
I think everybody, for the most part, I'm just speculating, but I think everybody just took a plea just to get out. Just get out. I know Wani Lee has never been in trouble ever. So he was able to do first offender, which means if he stays out of trouble, this is not going to be on his background.
Okay, yeah, because I think he's younger as well. You know, the reason why I like talking to some of the attorneys that have been on the ground working on this every single day is because you guys give us a different perspective that we can't see, right? Mm-hmm. What is one thing that you would like the public to know about the legal system in not even Georgia, but like given the experience your client went through and the legal issues that you guys had? What's like an important takeaway for the government or for the public to be aware of?
The system is not fair. It's not there to prove your innocence. For the most part, when they charge you, it's because they're just trying to get a conviction. They're not looking into anything else. Just because somebody was arrested does not mean that they did this. And I think that's the hardest thing that's the biggest thing that people should take away from this YSL thing, from all the people coming in testifying, all the people say, yeah, I just lied. Right. Because I don't know, most people don't want to be in prison. And people like my client, the reason his first trial went so left is because the public didn't know about it. If the public knew about it, I think that would have put more pressure on the jury to be like, whoa, maybe this doesn't make sense. And I think if it wasn't televised, people wouldn't know. They'd be like, well, he was convicted because he did it. No, he did not.
Was his trial televised?
No.
Really?
No, because I mean, nobody cares about somebody that's, is represented by appointed counsel. He's not famous. Mm-hmm. He's not like an influencer or anything. So unfortunately, nobody cares. And if nobody cares, the jury is just like, let's just go home. I just want to go home.
Yeah. And those trials are typically a lot faster, right?
Yeah. I believe his was maybe 8 days total, picking the jury out, doing the trial and sentencing.
But Angela, I want to learn a little bit more about you, and the audience is loving you right now in the chat. What made you go into or want to go into the legal profession?
Yeah, that's so funny. So when I was younger, like maybe 9, 10 years old, I had an uncle who was an attorney, and he was the first African-American dean at a law school at Ole Miss.
Wow, Ole Miss. Look at that.
Yeah. And they literally killed him because he had a heart attack because they literally worked him to death. And that's extremely hard to prove. But in court, they proved that he was killed because they were being racist.
Oh, my God.
Right. And so after that, I was like, well, I'm never going to law school. And so as I'm getting older, I have a son and everything. He's special needs. And I used to have to go to like IEP meetings, and just to learn, you almost have to be an attorney to understand how to get your child services. So I was like, I guess I'll go to law school.
Oh, okay. So that was the original intention. Wow.
Because I was running far from the law, because I was like, it killed my uncle. Absolutely not.
Why would I go? No, I totally understand that. Yeah, it's funny. Like when I met Lead, I was finishing law school, and we, he's been doing the YouTube thing. He retired, really enjoys what he's doing right now. And I kind of just learned from him. I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to practice. Like, I like what I'm doing at home because, I understand everything. I've learned everything. And watching trials like this is so easy to explain to people how it works. So you had your start and, kind of continue that path for us. After you got in, that was the original intention. But where did it lead to after that?
After that, I realized that I'm going to be way too passionate. So there's no way I could advocate for other special needs kids because I'm going to get upset because I understand that the school is just saying no, just to say no. It doesn't cost them anything. It doesn't require them to do any additional work, but they're just saying no just because they're like, it's easier just to say no. So that would piss me off really bad. So I was like, okay, I can't do that. And so I was working at a family law firm, and she also did criminal law and doing all the legal research and looking at the discovery. And I was like, oh my God, he did not do this. This girl was lying. It was great. It was great.
Okay, gotcha. So you started with one path and then it kind of transitioned into criminal law. And sometimes those things just happen, right?
Yeah.
On our journeys, you never know.
Right. And she was like, you need to go ahead and go be a public defender because what most people don't know, public defenders don't run from trials because for the most part, those clients are going to go to trial. So you'll get a ton of trial experience as a public defender.
Gotcha. Yeah, the other thing too is I was just going to ask you because there's a lot of passion and the audience is picking up on that from you as well. What is your favorite part about this profession?
I used to like justice, but then YSL happened. I've just seen so much in this one trial that I just never thought would be a thing. Having attorneys held in contempt, seeing an attorney get arrested when he had his prescribed medication, seeing other attorneys be threatened with jail. They don't say things. I'm just like, wait a minute, what is happening? Seeing lawyers lie in open court. I'm just like, are you serious? Roll the tape back. That's what you said. What is happening?
Oh yeah.
This cannot be real. Okay. After seeing this YSL trial and seeing what they're willing to do, how they're willing to charge people, I was sitting next to my client every day and I was going through his cases, seeing all the mistakes. I'm just like, even if you had all the money in the world, it wouldn't matter.
No, it totally wouldn't. It totally wouldn't. So, one thing that I do like to do with this platform too is because there's a lot of aspiring people that want to go into law. If you were to encourage aspiring law students that are on their journey into the profession, what would you recommend, especially when it comes to criminal defense with everything you've learned?
I feel like a lot of people, when they're in law school and they're telling people I'm in law school, attorneys are always like, oh, why'd you do that? Don't do that. Right. Don't listen to them. They're just miserable because they got stuck in something they don't want to be in. The legal profession is so vast that I think you can find any place and you can find your spot to fit in. If you don't like talking to people, not a problem. They have admin law. If you like entertainment and you want to be in that, they have entertainment law, so that's more contracts. So if you just like to read, contract law. There's something for everybody. Make sure you finish and take that bar. You'll make it. And it'll be great.
I can only imagine the level of burnout that you guys got having to go to court every day. The defendants too. The jury members too. Every single day. Whereas for us, we're watching at home in our socks.
We're getting told it's going to be Monday through Thursday. I'll probably give you guys Friday off. And just kidding. Come Monday through Friday, every day, 9 to 6.
It happened today. Tomorrow, there'd just be not jury day tomorrow. And it's I can only imagine what the jury is thinking.
Right. I'm not guilty. Everybody's going home.
That's right. That's kind of the sentiments. Let's go to televised trials. And, you and I have kind of tapped on this, the importance of televised trials. Do you believe that this particular trial being televised was a benefit?
You get to see such a variety. And so because you get to have a variety, you almost get to see what it's like to have a trial in Fulton County. And if Fulton County is supposed to be one of the more liberal counties, imagine what that's like if Rodalius Ryan was sitting in South or North Georgia. I just wish that people would understand that the people who are in prison, 9 times out of 10, probably didn't do it.
Yeah. And that's what's so cool about your perspective is, you're coming from Little Rod's trial that wasn't televised, coming to something here with him having one charge, and it is televised. But the public just really rallied behind these defendants, all the defense attorneys, all of you guys doing such a great job. And we also got to see the injustices on the defense attorney side, like some of the things we saw with two different judges.
And you guys got to see two judges. How many trials do you get to see two judges?
There wasn't. We had Ingram for like a day or two.
What's funny is she's the judge that presided over Rodalius Ryan's trial.
Really?
Yes.
It's such a small courthouse.
Right. Because I was like, oh no. Because she's going to be like, well, he did it.
So if we did not get Judge Whitaker and if it stayed with Ingram, wow.
The one who gave him life plus 25. Do you know they paused court, kicked the jury out, and for 200 pages of a transcript, they went through it to see whether her house was actually shot up. And nobody in the DA's office was like, no, we never got a call. Nobody that was assigned to her case as an investigator was like, no, we never got a call. And they called any officer that was on that case, like that was assigned to her case. They were like, no, we never got a call. So 200 pages of people saying, no, we never got a call. Rodalius Ryan's attorney was like, I have an objection. This should be a mistrial because the jury just heard her house got shot up. And the judge didn't grant it. So that should definitely be an appealable issue.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. I just spent some time with some friends. Some of them work for law enforcement, but on the federal side. So I have a friend that works for the FBI. And then, it was like a birthday party. So there was a ton of law enforcement people like DHS, Department of Homeland Security. And I was talking to them about this case and some of the holes in the investigation side. And these federal folks were like, we don't investigate like that. We are like, you have to make sure that you do the footwork to make sure that these are not convictions that stick, but that you're doing the investigative part with integrity. Like I remember Brian Steele asking about that McDonald's video all the time. Brian always like, where is it? Oh, did you guys record over it? It's because it's so strange.
This Brian the liar said that they ran off in a van. You don't think you should test that van for gunshot residue?
Yeah, GSR. What are the tags of the van? What did the van look like? Is the van real? Georgia is one of the states that do there's not many states that televise trials. I lived in Atlanta and then recently came back up here to Boston. So Karen Reed's up in my neck of the woods and I can't wait to cover that. But there's a lot of states that don't televise trials. What's your opinion of that, just as states overall?
That's a little bit alarming because we're also connected with social media now. I think I would want to know what's happening in that state or maybe in that city. Like, what type of crimes are they usually charged with? Like, is this a heavy drug place? Like, I would want to know things like that. Are you guys just, is this a racist county? Is the judge saying things inappropriately? Like, oh, just find him guilty, not a problem. We don't know. You'd have to get somebody who has a Netflix or HBO connection to do a documentary and be like, oh, let's look at this now.
Now, I'm going to come to a few audience questions. A few of you guys have given us some, so I'll bring them on the screen. Shout out to Nam, who has a question. Nam says, does Little Rod have family support and how do they feel about this?
Yes. So his funny story, when I first met his dad, he wanted to fight me because I'm new to this case, of course. Of course, I got this case in the end of October, November, got discovery in November. I'm meeting his family the end of November. Of course, I don't know I don't know his case yet. His dad was pissed off and wanted to fight me. That was great. I met his mom a while back and she was upset because I wasn't saying anything in court. But as everybody could see, did they ever mention my client's name?
No, they hardly did. It's one charge that everyone had.
Right. So I wasn't sick, but that was part of my strategy to not say anything, just to bring light to why are we here? They were advocating for him, that's for sure. Because of course, people think public defenders are the worst thing in the world. They're not. And then I met his brother because I went to the crime scene. And his brother took me to it, was able to walk me through it and everything. So his family was really rallying around him. I know people saw his Instagram. They were like, oh, well, he's kind of bad. No, he's a kid doing kid things. And his family, they're like, no, he didn't. Like, he does a lot, but he did not do this. And I'm like, I agree.
That's good to know. Just because like we see everything from home, but we don't really know a lot about what the family workings are like, who's behind the camera. And, you know, as defense attorneys, you guys spend a lot of time with these folks and their families. Miss Angela, one, is Attorney Love as horrible in person as she appears on screen? So we'll take each of these as we go. People are saying that she's pretty, you know, she's nice. Extremely. But for us, we have a sentiment generally publicly that the case could have been done in a little bit more of an organized fashion. But let's come to the second part of this question. Or his second question is, do you think the jury can ignore that everyone else is gone and they took a plea? We know they watch the news.
I mean, technically, they're not supposed to. I think if I was a juror, it would be a little concerning to have a room full of people on the other side, and all of a sudden, there's only one table, and that's it. I'm also curious of what the jury's thinking, because I know if I was a juror, I'd be like, are you guys the guilty ones or something? Like, why did everybody else leave?
Texas Sunshine says, ask how she feels about Love.
Especially his child. He's autistic. There was an autistic person who was charged with murder, and she was the DA for that. And he was severely autistic. Putting him into a mental health facility, she just kept going. I don't know what it is. She kept going. And he died in jail because he's autistic. And so things he doesn't understand what is happening in jail. He doesn't get it. And so people, they beat him to death. And that's on her hands. I understand that a lot of attorneys are in it just to win, but you have to turn on that common sense and be like, this doesn't make sense. We need to work something out.
Why are these investigations not happening properly before they're brought to the DAs and charges are brought against people?
People get prosecuted. They're filling up the prisons. The prisons are doing kickbacks to all these, they're elected officials for a reason, right?
R. Rosen says, has this case hardened your love for justice?
Yes. In law school, I kind of got it out my system because they were like, oh, the whole war on drugs is really to get people in prison. That's how they broke up Black families, Black and brown families.
You know, when you really get into the weeds of this stuff, you really see how it works. And I'm just really happy that we all have these platforms and can talk to people like you that can shed a real light on what's actually happening.
Going over their evidence, I almost felt like I was back in like 11th or 12th grade. And we're like discussing a passage from a poem or something. And out of like 20 kids, everybody had their own unique take on it. So there's like all these opinions about what these lyrics mean or what this Instagram post means. And it's like, that's not at all what that means. Like, y'all don't know what hip hop is? You can put that in Shazam, Google the lyric, and you can be like, oh, that's a lyric, and we can be done with this. But instead, we have to argue about, oh, that's a lyric. Well, you can ask that on cross-examination. To who? Hogan? You think he knows?
Right. And we've seen that. I think you were still in the courtroom when we had Detective Dennis, was it?
He didn't investigate anything either.
These were our thoughts at home. We're just like, okay, you're a gang expert because you watched Boys in the Hood. Watching some of the objections that you guys made that were so valid so many times, you know, some of yours, we were all like, no, Angela's right. And to see some of them just come out the way that they did was so frustrating. How was that for you?
That's another reason I don't think justice is really justice, because we see, I mean, even though everybody loves Whitaker or whatever, but Glanville, Whitaker, you can see how judges work with the DAs to get these convictions. So that's how you can see it's not a fair trial. You have the defense attorney going against a big system that has millions of dollars to put into cases.
I'm going to come to Jocelyn with another question. She says, how did you keep your client encouraged during the long process of his trial?
That's a good question. I can only say so much because, attorney-client privilege. But I know, he's really, really smart. So I know he was writing a book. So hopefully he gets a book deal or a movie deal. Because he was writing about this trial, everything that was happening.
Wow, good for him.
And then I love K-pop and I love anime. Love, love, love anime. So sometimes, of course, not during the actual trial, but during not jury selection, but during the hardships, we really didn't have to pay attention, really. I would take a break from looking at Discovery or whatever, and we would watch an anime together, because why not?
Coming to Sire. I always want to call him Siri, but it's Sire. His question is, do you think that untreated special needs kids end up on the wrong side of the law, and how often?
I've had a few clients as a public defender or appointed cases. A lot of them have mental health issues, and it is extremely obvious. Like, I even had one who couldn't talk. You could tell that person was not all there, and the cops still arrested her. You have to have you have to have the intent. But these cops are still charging people. Why? Because it's easy. So now you get to put some handcuffs on them, and then DA will be like, oh, this is a horrible person. What? Are you guys kidding me right now? It is so frustrating that we need to focus more on mental health.
Yeah, I think that opens up the door to a wider issue in America in itself, and that's mental health. Coming back to Rosen, who says, does it frustrate you that the judges have helped the state with questioning and motions?
Like, I know they do this usually for both sides anyway. And I know they usually do it for like an appealable issue because, of course, no judge wants to have their case appealed because that's bad for them. But in this case, it was just so obvious that it was disgusting. Like I said, Whitaker basically stopping court. If somebody didn't take a plea, were we just going to sit there for a month until somebody took a plea? They all helped the DA get their conviction because at the end of the day, they just want convictions. They don't want justice, and that's frustrating. And the judges who actually want justice are the ones who don't get enough money to campaign.
Thank you so much for that one. Shout out to Rockin' Robin, LA, in Louisiana with the 10. She says, question, Miss Angela, are all the judges in Fulton County scared Fonnie Willis? Y'all are going in today. And is that why they don't give a mistrial with prejudice? God knows this YSL case should have been a mistrial a long time ago.
I think that's mainly for nobody is scared of Fonnie Willis. I think the reason most judges don't do a mistrial is because when they do a mistrial with prejudice, it's going to be reviewed. And if they did get it wrong, then they're going to look at that judge like, why would you do that? Or if one of the clients were to commit a crime right after the mistrial was granted, they're going to look back at that judge and be like, oh, why'd you let him go?
Coming to Mixed Chick Sammy with the question. She says, feelings on the Jungle Book opening.
First off, Jeffrey Williams is not a big bad wolf. That was crazy. Once again, that goes to that common sense thing. If you get a huge entertainer that comes from your impoverished neighborhood, you're going to probably say his name all the time. Mm-hmm. And if you actually went to school with him or you grew up with him or whatever, why wouldn't you say his name, especially in the age of social media? That could blow up your social media. That could give you other opportunities. If he's this big famous person, he might be able to get you a job. You see a lot of people who came in said that they were working for him. And if you're working for him, doesn't that mean, you get out of poverty? He's not a big bad wolf. I was kind of disgusted by that, but he's not a horrible person. He's a great person. He's just trying to help everybody that he could bring with him.
Now that I have you up here with me, I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, did she mention each defendant's name in that opening statement, what they were charged with? Like, okay, let's go to the first one. Let's go to the second one. Let's go to the third one. She led with the wolf of the pack I can't remember it right now, but the strength of the pack is the wolf.
He's not bringing everybody to the slaughter. He's not like a shepherd that's just like, yeah, let's bring you to the wolf. Like he was helping people that he grew up with. They've all probably protected each other. He was helping them.
If you were to summarize this trial in one word, what would it be?
What I said in my opening statement, circus.
No, circus, 100% a circus. And that's what happened. How can people learn more about you, your law firm, your social handles? Where can people find you?
It's Supreme Attorney on TikTok.